welcome to That's What We Think with Connie and Steve.
Hi,
Hi,
Con.
Steve. How are you?
I'm doing good today. How are you doing?
Good, good.
I wonder how we'd be if we said, I'm doing bad today. But you know
Well,
what?
we do have bad days.
We do.
We do talk about the not so happy stuff too.
It's a comfort factor to this that's becoming
Yes.
part of the routine. So I'm happy to be here and I get to talk to you, which is the best part. And
Yes.
today we're just it's one of those days. Just for everyone listening, sometimes Con and I have our moments before we press record where we share just little tidbits and little things that are going on in our lives and that we may not want to tell you, but we share with
Just
us,
between the
just
two of
between
us.
us. And, I was just noticing with my friend here, just a little bit of melancholy. And I was kind of probing a little bit just to see how she's doing. And we figured we'd talk about, I don't know, something that's really tough. It is, of course, a personal topic, which we don't mind in this case sharing.
Yep.
But she just seemed a little sad. And I was asking what was going on, and you were just saying,
I was just thinking about my dad.
yeah,
And I know I've said it a few times before that my dad has recently passed away. He passed July 27th of 2024. So what has that been? 7
it's
months, 8 months. So
very close.
still very close, still very raw.
Yeah.
I miss him immensely. He used to come over, and I'm not going to cry on this episode. I promise you.
If
Um,
you do, it's okay.
yeah. Yeah. He used to come over he would call and he would say, don't make dinner. I made pizzas or I made scotcha or I made woda and, all the Italian stuff. Right.
Yeah.
And he'd come over with it and it would be warm still when he would come over.
Yeah.
And the kids just loved having him here.
Yeah.
And he loved the kids, like his grandchildren. And he used to say, because I'm going to be alive until Luca, his youngest grandson, was married and had kids.
Yeah.
And I wish he was. But
you were saying that there's this presence that
yeah.
still.
So while I'm recording here, I have some picture frames on my desk, and one of them is of my dad. And so he's always watching, and I told him before he left that we would be doing this, that we were going to be recording a podcast, and I told him I wanted to do an interview with him and ask him questions and stuff like that. Unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to do that. But I was saying to Stephen earlier, just before we hit record, I said, it's funny, and I know everybody has their own beliefs about the afterlife, but I truly believe we're energy.
Yeah.
And energy doesn't end. It just continues, it just changes form. So I believe he's here with me all the time. It's just I can't see him and I can sense him. And a lot of times I'll start crying out of nowhere,
Yeah.
not even thinking of him. And I don't know, again, this is
Yes.
just it's my own, whether it be my coping mechanism
Mhm.
or a belief that
Mhm.
I'm learning or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's like my subconscious energy is recognizing his energy,
Mhm.
but my conscious energy doesn't know how to deal with that excitement of seeing him.
Mhm.
So it comes out in sadness and in tears,
Mhm.
which sadness is adjacent to love,
Mhm.
right? It's
Mhm.
an expression of
Of love lost.
love.
Yeah. Yes.
So I think so when you asked me how I'm doing, and I think that he's here with me right now. So, and
It's.
it's comforting.
I think what's interesting about the power of words compared to the power of seeing when people are talking is more immense than you think. Because if you're not watching and you're just listening to a person's voice, you can sometimes it doesn't match what the person's face may look like, because
Right.
the person may have they may have a mask just to keep it all together. They may have tears, they may be laughing, whatever it is, but the voice, the way it modulates and conveys all these emotions may not fit that. But the difference is that I'm watching Connie while we're doing this recording, and I can see her face. So, and we've had a friendship again for over, God, 30 years. And you kind of get to know somebody as you would. And as she had mentioned before, this is a journey that it's such a personal journey, and it's so, so, so hard to go through. And it's still so fresh. And it's painful. And it's on her face and it's in her voice, and it comes out sometimes where I can feel that pain, and I understand that journey. And when she tells me she feels his presence, I never question it. And no one has the right to question that. Nobody.
No. No.
Nobody has the right to ever question anybody who has gone through loss. If they feel what they feel, then let them feel it, and don't
Yeah.
you dare interrupt that feeling. Don't come at them and say, "Well, I don't believe that," or "I don't think that's the way." Well, good for you. You deal with your own stuff. But when a
Mhm.
person is telling you that this is what they're feeling, this is what they're feeling. And having gone through a similar journey, I didn't lose my father. I lost my partner to leukemia uh, 20 years ago. I do remember, it's buried, of course, and it's probably best that I have forgotten a great deal of that stuff. But that initial journey, it's a tough one, and it's a fog. And as you're forced to have that fog lifted, it gets each day gets just a little bit harder because it's real. This is a real thing. And we could probably interview so many people that we know and love that have gone through these personal journeys. And I do think there's a common denominator about that fog, don't you think, Con?
I
And
think
having it
so.
lift, and when you're aftermath, the months afterwards, as you're dealing with it, it's so real.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. And of course, um shortly after he left,
Mm,
I did what a lot of people do. I went to see a psychic
mm.
because I wanted to, I don't know, I wanted just to have that reassurance that he was there. And I know a lot of people are like going, "Oh my god, she went to a psychic."
Yep.
Crazy woman. A lot of people do it, right?
I wouldn't say crazy, but go on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've gone to psychics prior to this as well. I probably go to them once a year just to kind of,
Yeah.
see how it is. I used to have a psychic party once a year. Before the end of the school year, I'd invite a bunch of women over to the house, and we'd have a psychic come, and she would do a reading. So I associate psychics with having a party, having fun.
Okay. Yeah.
This time when I went, though, she sat down and she does the cards, the tarot cards. And one of the cards was this dark figure, kind of like a sorrowful figure with their head down. And she said, "You lost a man recently that was very close to you." And immediately waterworks.
Of course.
And she goes, "It was your father. He's here and he wants to tell you something." And then she told me his message, and it was comforting.
We've
And I
talked
know
about
you've
this,
yeah,
and it's a very this is one of the very few times that Con and I are on very, very different paths
yeah,
with how we feel about psychics and that genre. And it's incredibly polarizing for once, actually, because usually we're on the same page. And in this case, I do not subscribe to what they say. I've had issues with psychics, and I find that for me, it feeds on a part of your soul that I don't believe they should have access to. It, and I understand for people they need to find a way to deal with the pain. If it's not a fun reading, if it's about reaching out to someone that you've lost or someone that you miss or something like that, just to have something. I can understand the gravitational pull of what a
yeah,
psychic can do in that regard, because it does provide a sense of something that's been taken from you that you want back. And that's fine. I don't think anybody should not see someone simply because they believe that. But for me, I don't, I find that it's stealing something that you have no right to talk about. You don't know anything about my life or the person that's gone. And I find because there's a bit of a fishing expedition to make sure that they get it right, that I take exception to. And that is what I think about
Mhm.
it. This is nothing against people that go. You do what you have to do in order to find a way to grieve or reach out or even be happy in this case. If this provides happiness, okay,
Mhm.
be happy. But it's not something that I would do. And there will be no convincing of my mind that it does, that it would provide this, because
Yeah.
my journey with that sort of loss was so intense and so awful and so life changing. My way of reaching out to people to help me was therapy at that point because
Right.
I needed it. You don't realize how much you do until you do. I never experienced that before. And
Yeah.
in my
It's
past,
difficult.
Connie, I would always run away from that sort of
Yeah.
environment. I've lost aunts and uncles, and friends and cousins, and I didn't process it well.
Right.
And when this happened, because it was right in front of me and there was no escaping it, I got punched. So it was such a punch in the face and gut and heart and everything that I didn't think reaching out to that would be a good thing for me. But
Right.
if it actually did it help?
Um, yeah. Yeah, kind of
Yeah.
it did. This is the first time that I ever went to a psychic while I was in a bad place.
Yeah.
Like I said, to me, going to a psychic was
Fun.
entertainment. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be fun. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be entertainment. It's supposed to be a bunch of women getting together, sharing a bottle of
Yes.
wine, and then telling each other, what they said. So that was the first time that I ever dealt with it. That in a more melancholy type of way.
Right.
Now, I know you don't believe in psychics. However, and I keep all my papers that I've written the stuff that they've said down on and the predictions that some of them have made. And I'm not saying that all of them have been good. I've had different ones. I had one that I went to a few times, like 3 years in a row,
Yeah.
and she was unfrickin' believable. She was so good. I wish I could find her because I can't. I have
Okay.
no idea where she is. She's just kind of like fallen off the face of the earth.
Okay.
Before this one psychic party that I hosted, David and I were sitting on our front porch, and Emily and Jack were just of that age where they could ride the bike around the block without us following them. And we were having a cup of coffee. It was summertime, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is so nice. We're finally getting, like, the freedom of finding out what it's like just to kind of be a couple again as opposed to, being parents.
Yeah.
Like, we can get that little bit of time together."
Yeah.
Well, I had a psychic party 2 days after that, and Phyllis says to me, that's her name,
Yeah.
she says, "You're pregnant." And I was like, "No, I'm not." She was like, "Yeah." She goes, "If you're not pregnant right now, you're going to be in a couple of days." And I was just like, "There is no way that I'm pregnant. It's not possible." Right? Because we were being careful. Yeah. Kids out there, listen to this. It can happen even when you're being careful. So, uh, a little bit after, we're going to go out for like a Jack and Jill. And I thought, before I go drinking, maybe I should just test to see if the psychic was right. And lo and behold, I was pregnant. And that freedom that David and I tasted for a split
Two
second,
days.
gone. The freedom was no
But
that was it. Down the drain. Any retirement that David was kind of dreaming of happening at a sooner or younger age. No, that's not happening.
Did
And then
she
we
ever
had
tell you
Evelyn.
how she knew? Like, did she ever give you or how like, I
She would
mean
just hold my hands.
okay,
Okay. Then she also said that Evelyn was going to be a pianist and that she wouldn't want to do anything else but play the piano. Now, Evelyn is not a pianist, but she sings accompanied by a piano. She wants to do nothing but do that.
right.
And so, not exactly, but very close. She
Okay,
also said that, and this was another one that I was like, there is no, this is baloney. This is not going to happen. She said that we were buying a house, but we weren't going to sell the house that we were in. And I was like, okay, so I'm winning the lottery here. I'm assuming that's really possible. I was just like, yeah, that's not happening. So, again, I'm chalking all of what she's saying up as BS.
right.
So then this house that we're living in right now goes up for sale. And I'm like, oh my God, that's the house that we've been looking at. And we kept on watching it and they had dropped the price.
Yeah,
And we went in and the market was starting to heat up. So our real estate agent and my good friend Debbie told me, she said, go in with the only condition being financing and inspection.
right.
Don't worry about the sale of the house. I'll sell it right away. So we didn't do any conditions on the sale of our house. She put up a sign, our house sold the next day. That's perfect. And that person that purchased our house
Yeah,
wanted an earlier closing date. So now we're moving within a month as opposed to 3 months
right.
that we had thought. And then the person that purchased our house, their financing fell through.
Oh,
And I was like, oh my God, I have purchased a house without selling my house in a month. Now, Phyllis had said, don't worry, everything's going to be okay. And in my head, I'm going, okay, she said it's going to be okay. She said it's going to be okay. She's been right about everything freaking else. So
yeah,
it
yeah,
has to be okay.
yeah.
And, just try to tell myself to calm myself because I was a nervous wreck that
Of
entire time.
course.
We end up putting it back on the market. And 3 days later, somebody else put an offer and they came in firm and
Okay,
purchased the house with the closing date that we needed.
right.
So it's going to be okay. So that was another one. I was like going, oh my God, this woman is unbelievably amazing. I keep all
The
the
notes.
papers. When they're telling you things, you kind of jot down as many notes as you can.
Right.
Before we started recording, I was going through the notes, and one of them said that I'll be talking to a lot of people over a microphone. What? Are you kidding me? And that was like in 2016. How? Like that's just like seriously. And so that's why I love these. I love going because I think it's fun,
Yeah.
Yes, I probably shouldn't have gone when I went to see that other psychic after my dad had passed, but I did. And it is whatever. And
I
and
look, I think what you just said is under the like some of that was kind of serious because real estate and finances eek.
oh yeah, that was
However,
scary. I was like the pit of my
that's
stomach was
yeah, having been through the whole real estate process recently and ups and downs of
yes.
it, it's like I'm just like
Yeah.
Connie, that's a big one. However, I mean, you're not alone in like I went online just obviously as you do, just to check and see a little bit more about
Right.
psychics and the business of being a psychic. And it's $1 billion business. It is a
Oh
huge
yeah.
business. I was reading about John Oliver, who did a show on Last Week Tonight, which is a great show. He did a whole in-depth thing on it a couple of years ago. And he said like 4 in 10 Americans actually do reach out to, which is a lot of people when you think about that,
Yeah.
reach out to psychics to help them with whatever issues are happening in their lives. And that's power.
Yeah.
There's a power in this business now that I don't believe enough people, I think people take seriously, but not seriously enough. because it does have an effect on your life if you believe
Mhm.
in it. If you believe,
If you're living your life to what they've said, then that's I write it down, put it on my paper. I've
yeah,
had a good time, put it away. And like I said, I don't really look at them again
right,
unless I'm doing something like this and then I read through them and then get surprised by
right.
I'm going to be talking to a lot of people on a microphone, which is kind of fun.
Well, you know what's interesting though is that when you can compare psychics to horoscopes.
Yes.
Now, sometimes I do read mine, of course. Like, I mean, every once in a while, I'll check and see. Like, oh yeah, there's some similarities there. And as a Sagittarius, I do believe there's certain personality traits that I absolutely prescribe to that does fit me to a T. The difference is that I know that I understand that it's fun, and you're like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, okay, yeah, that's gonna happen, blah blah blah. Knowing the chances of it really happening are very little. However, I would never go when it comes to really personal stuff, finances, death, or that sort of thing. I know that this is again what I think is, or what I my opinion is that I don't think anybody can really predict or tell you this journey or this path without digging a little bit into what is already happening in your world. And I don't know how it works in psychic world. I don't quite know. I mean, I did read this hot reads and cold reads and certain methods that they'll do to when they have a client. I've seen real people who I worry, and not worry, I wonder, you know, and then I think it's none of my business. It's none of my business.
Yeah. If
If
you're
this is
using
this
it
is
as like guidance,
Yeah. And people do.
if you're you yeah, there's and a lot of people do have that psychic addiction, right? Where
Yeah.
they're going and so the 1-900 hotlines, remember those
Of
where you can
course.
call and you can
My
talk to a
God.
psychic,
What was
right?
a Jamaican lady that used to do those late night commercials, which were so but Cleo, Madam Cleo. Was that her name?
I don't know.
I
I
think
just remember the commercials.
oh they
They
were
were the cheapest, lowest quality commercials that you
but
could
everybody
possible.
knew them. I
Yes.
gotta look it up. Well, so anyways, you're going on.
So they'll call every single week going, am I going to meet my love today, or is he going to message me? Is he all of a sudden going to recognize that I'm here and
Miss Cleo. Sorry. Go on.
miss
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Go
And
on.
they'll be like, "Yes, that I see him picking up the phone this weekend, or he's going to call you this week, or he's leaving his wife this week for you," or that false hope that keeps on leading you and leading you and leading you so that you can keep on calling every single week. That's terrible.
Mhm.
That's a whole different thing. And like I said, if you're doing it, if you're going to see a psychic once a year and
For a
because
laugh.
I do believe that, and I do also believe that there are people, one, that have very strong psychic abilities. I also believe that we all have some psychic ability,
Mhm.
right? Where,
Mhm.
you look at something and you go, why does this feel so familiar? That deja vu type
Mhm.
of thing.
Yeah.
Or you go in and you're thinking, this is going to happen, or you have that dream that such and such is going to happen, or you're going to see so and so, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden they call, or you see them, or you
That's
you know
happened. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's those are psychic moments that we all have, right?
Mm.
I do think that there are some people who are like Phyllis, very tapped in and completely know about weird things. I mean, how do you know that a child that I haven't even had is going to somehow associated with a piano? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and be on stage. Like, because that is exactly what she said. And I'm like, how do you know that?
I don't
Right?
know. That's a good question. I mean, how
There's
how
no
do you?
all the research that you could do would not have led you to that. Even all the research she could have done for the house. I had no desire to sell the house that we were in, right?
Yeah.
We were there. That was going to be our house,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, when we saw this house come up, like a house from afar, and even when it did first come up for sale, I was like, that is not a house we'll be buying because it was way too out of
Fair
our
enough.
league,
Yeah. No,
right?
I get
Like,
it.
so I think there are some people who do have the gift,
Okay.
right? And then I do think, obviously, like everything, there are charlatans, and you
Of
do have to be aware of them, and you cannot be addicted to it. It's there's,
You can't be, but for those people that are potentially addicted to it, there's there's a reason for that.
yeah,
It's a search. It's searching for something.
yeah,
Searching. I often think it's searching for some sort of closure for whatever it is that's going on in their lives, whether it
yeah,
be personal or private or death or life or whatever the case may be. And I just no one needs my sadness or pity or whatever it is that's that on them because of what they're doing. But I do feel sad sometimes when I see that simply because it's like I know we're all everybody's looking for something. They're
yeah.
looking for some sort of validation for what's going on in their lives or what's happening
Improvement,
anything or they're looking for explanations as to what is happening with their life. Why did
right.
this happen? Why did this occur? What am I supposed to learn? How am I supposed to learn from this? And they're reaching out to this stranger, just like you would with a therapist. They're not friends, they're
Yes,
strangers, but you're getting somebody that's guessing sometimes in a way that I don't know. I just find that it's only half an hour, whereas with a therapist, you're going all the time to talk. And they're also going to psychic all the time to talk, but it's a different type of it's a
a therapist has
degrees, hopefully,
degrees.
and or some incredible wealth of knowledge to back up
Yeah,
their theories and you rely on those those
yeah.
those those
Your
readings,
psychic is not your therapist.
but people do
And if you're using
use
your
that.
psychic as a therapist, then you're using the psychic wrong.
But does that mean also the psychic has the ability to say, I don't think this is the place for you, perhaps you need to go to?
I think if a psychic is telling you what to do, then you're going to the wrong psychic. There's an astrologer and a psychic medium who have podcasts, and I've listened to their podcasts. One's out of Australia, the other one is out of the States. And they have talked about psychic addiction and how it is dangerous, and those people that are taking advantage of you and taking your money, and you should not be going to them.
Right, right. Okay. A lot of us have all seen ghosts, and I
Yes.
wonder if some people are expecting like a Whoopi Goldberg scenario where they literally have the spirits talking through them to them about
Right.
whomever it is. We joke and laugh about that, but I don't think that's a joking matter in some respects. I do believe that that's what the expectation is. Again, separating the fun from the serious,
Yeah.
and it's the serious ones where that's where I'm like,
I can tell you right now that
you
my
know,
dad never believed in a psychic.
okay.
My dad was a complete skeptic.
So is Robbie. So
I'm shocked he didn't actually tell her when he
I
was
think
saying what he said to her supposedly, because again, the information that she gave me or what she said to me is very generic and could have been said to anybody,
anyone, yeah,
right?
yep,
So, did it make me feel happy in the moment? Absolutely.
okay,
It relieved that.
and that's fair. That's fair.
Yes. Yeah. But again, could it have been it could have been anyone, right?
Yeah, yeah.
If my dad did come through, my dad probably would have said, "What are you doing going to a psychic? I will talk to you if I need to talk to you." And he's probably standing right here beside me right now going, "That is exactly what I would have
Yeah,
said."
yeah.
Like I said, I do feel his presence, and I do feel I and I'm not saying like in a ghostly type of scenario, although we have had things happen here since
You've mentioned that before,
he's
but
left. Yeah, we
yeah,
had the lights in the kitchen have
yeah,
flickered.
okay,
The lights in the dining room have flickered. And I mean, we don't have an electrical problem. It's not that old of a house. And I did take a picture during Thanksgiving, and right between David and I is this giant white light shining through. And again, is it my dad? Maybe. It made me feel good thinking that it is him.
yeah,
But we also have, and it's been happening probably once every 2 weeks, once a week.
yeah.
And it's different ones all the time. We have these battery operated candles. They're not on a timer or anything like that. They're just regular battery candles. And every so often they turn on. And I'm like, what is going on? And I'm like, who is turning this on? And they're like, I'm not. The kids are all getting scared, of course, right? So
You know,
yeah.
the rational part of my brain is, it sounds like a malfunction, but
It's not.
But the other part of my brain that's been through this journey too understands that it's when you lose somebody that you love, your brain is just absolutely scrambled and because you're trying so hard to understand.
Yes.
You're looking for something that's going to help you understand and something that's going to try to keep you sane
Yeah.
because you're not.
Well,
There's like,
and
and
something that's
I'm
going to
not
give you a sign that they're still there and that they're
something.
thinking of you and that they're
Absolutely.
okay and,
I remember when after Robbie died, there was having a very bad day, and the grieving process is an exhausting thing. And I was so
yeah.
tired. It was raining outside, and we had this apartment that had giant windows. You could see we were in a corner unit, so we can get it was a beautiful apartment. Loved that apartment. And there was a rainbow at the end of it. And I thought at the time, he's sending me a message that he's okay,
Yeah.
which made me cry harder.
Of course.
I ended up passing into the couch because I was so tired. But that's that's the whole thing. And I mean, like I said, everybody has a different grieving process after they lose somebody. And you can be stoic about it, you can be matter of fact about it, but regardless, it's still going to affect your brain in
Yeah.
some way. And I'd love to read even more studies now. Now that there's some, God, it took me years to get over it, to get to that level of wanting to understand it from a psychological perspective. What's happening in there? What is it that we need to find a way to go on? And as I've said earlier in the conversation, I think when we're looking for that answer, we'll turn to whatever it is that we can find that's going to just help ease discomfort, eh, Connie? It's
Yeah.
terrible discomfort. It's you're living with discomfort every day until you don't have to, until it
Mhm.
becomes just a nagging thought in the back of your head.
Have you ever seen The Good Place?
I started watching it and I loved it, but I never finished it.
Oh,
Oh, I have to. I love that show.
it is such a good show.
Yeah. Kristen Bell, eh? Wow. Anyways, she's doing no wrong.
In The Good Place,
Yeah.
they were talking about time, on Earth,
Hmm.
and they said it's like Jeremy Bearimy, and it's this signature for the name Jeremy Bearimy,
Okay.
and it's like it's very all over the
Loopy?
place signature. It loops all over the place and comes back and forth and everything. And I figure that that's grief. Jeremy Bearimy, I say it all the time. If it's you're fine, all of a sudden you're not fine again, and then you're fine and fine and fine, and then you're not fine again because
Yeah.
it just keeps on looping back and forth. And whenever I think of grief, I think of Jeremy Bearimy. I don't know why.
That's that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I mean, again, this is we're always looking for some sort of explanation to understand grief. I remember there's a couple
yeah,
of
because
books.
it's
There's
not linear.
it's never linear. Joan Didion wrote a book about grief, and it's really good. I wish I could remember the name, and I read it at the time. But for me, also reading it at the time, recognizing that that was her journey of grief and it did provide a little bit of relief just because there's a weight attached to it that is it's so heavy and again your mind is trying desperately to process this whole thing and I love Jeremy Bearimy. I think actually that might be the best way to think about it is
Isn't
that
it?
it is so loopy. It is you are a bobblehead,
Yeah,
like you
yeah,
really are out to lunch
yeah.
but
And you have
firmly
good
planted.
moments, and then you don't all of a
Yeah.
sudden, and they come out of nowhere.
Absolutely. Like you're out to lunch, but yet your feet are firmly planted on the ground. It is a disconcerting, disorientating situation. And I like that you turned to that TV show because I heard it's very good.
Yeah,
I turn to books, people turn to psychics, or they turn to other sorts or therapists or whomever it is that they need in order to get to that level of to stop the Jeremy Bearimys, but you can't stop it.
you can't. You
You
just have to
can't.
live through it.
It's horrible.
Yeah,
And it's wonderful because it shows that you are human
yeah.
and the empathy and love that you felt for that person is so strong, so overwhelming, and it'll never stop. That's the
No,
one thing. The person may not physically be there, but you'll always carry that in your heart. Always. And that's not a bad thing. And I think I'm even going to separate it with the sexes sometimes with men and women and how we're taught to grieve. and specifically men, and specifically even straight men too, is that there's an expectation for some that you need to just carry through and power on and soldier on. And that's not fair. That's not fair to you. You
No.
shouldn't be doing that because all you're doing is prolonging a situation that should have been dealt with a long time ago.
Yeah.
Deal with it. I
Yeah,
learned
that
that lesson
stiff
the hard
upper
way
lip that
too.
they've been taught.
We are all taught to keep it together for the
Yeah.
sake of everyone around you, which is an absolutely shitty message to send to men. You
Yeah.
need to let it out and you need to grieve for the love of God because it will really mess you up in ways that that can mess you up in other relationships and other areas until you deal with
Mhm.
it in a way that's healthy. You may not run to a psychic, but you may need to run to a therapist if you can't.
Yes.
however,
Yeah.
however, it's just about finding ways to accept it, accept the loss. It's acceptance. I keep
Yeah.
repeating it, but I'm saying it to myself too.
So you would never go see a psychic then? Even for
No,
fun? No?
I don't have an interest.
Mhm.
It's because the whole time I would just be side eyeing them, just sitting there. Sure,
Yeah,
okay,
not being
all
open
right.
at all.
I just because I hate to do this, but I am thinking, what are you doing?
Yeah.
That's what's going through my head, and I shouldn't be angry for somebody doing this, but I'm angry at
Hmm.
that because
So,
it's
okay, when they talk about palm reading then, do you ever look at your palm and wonder if it says anything on there?
well, I currently look at my palm and go, "Oh my god, your hands are curling like crazy because they're so bad." Thank you, rheumatoid arthritis. But no, I've never really. I
Like when they say you
they're
have a
dry too.
long line or this is like
Oh yeah, yeah, I've seen that. I still
a
don't
long
quite.
lifeline and,
Yeah, I've seen
and
that before. What does
and
it
how
mean?
how many relationships you're gonna have or how many children you're gonna have, any of that stuff?
Boy, did that all come true with the many, many children I have these days,
Why did it say
and
you
the
were gonna
wife.
have a lot of children?
I think you're supposed to. Aren't you supposed to bend like your baby finger? If you see numbers on the side, it tells you or lines.
So I don't know what any of the lines on the palms mean. I mean, I've
Yeah,
I've heard them before. I don't know which is the marriage one or which are the kids ones, but
yeah, me either. I mean,
I do know the lifeline one.
okay. So this is a lifeline one. I've read that with the lifeline one, it tells you of impending health issues and stuff too, or is that what it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's supposed to.
I'm
Like
just
if
looking at my
there's like
palms;
breaks
very
in it,
dry.
I think that there's like different things. Also, if it goes far away from your thumb, if it's a wide arc, that it's supposed to mean that you're traveling far away from home a
Okay.
lot.
Which hand is it? The right or left?
I don't know. I don't know. I just,
See, that's the thing. I mean, we're all looking for answers for stuff,
I know. And
and
you're searching your hands going,
your
okay,
bloody
what is
hands.
it supposed to say?
Well, mine says old age because they're very dry. That's all I look at them. It is, and I keep looking at
You
my
need to
hands, and
moisturize.
I really do. Yeah, I really do, and I just keep thinking, Jesus, you're getting old. but,
That's
but people do take that stuff seriously, and
Yeah,
they
they do.
follow. And I keep thinking, you're living your life based on what you see on your hand. Are
Well, there's
you?
also apps now that you can take your use you use your camera and it
Yeah,
scans your hand and it lets you know what your hand is saying, like what your palm reads.
Connie,
And to me, all I'm thinking is, so now you've just given someone your fingerprints.
right? I didn't even think about that. You're right. Holy
Yeah.
crap. Okay, this is a general message out there. People, please be careful with what you're sending out there. Like, come on, all in good fun, but you're also doing things that may actually be harmful to your future here. So just be smart. But I don't know how I feel about that sort of thing. My instant reaction is no, don't do that,
Yeah.
and don't. But
Yeah. Well, especially because you
also
have
live
to
your life.
pay for that app and stuff like that. So there's tarots, palm readers, medium, psychic medium. So a medium is somebody who talks to the dead,
Oh my God.
right? And a psychic medium, I think they both
Do both?
talk to the dead and see ahead, I think.
Okay.
And then there's an astrologer that uses your birth chart.
Fine.
Now, astrology is really used in India
Hmm.
for everything.
Okay.
Everything.
Well,
There
Chinese with their as well.
yeah,
Don't the
there's
Chinese
Chinese
as well?
astrology as well.
Yeah.
But India, like, they get to the point of if you are looking
Okay.
at getting married, they will look at the 2 astrology charts
Okay.
of the potential couple and see if it's a good match, and if it's not a good match, the astrologer will tell, based on the charts, based on birth charts and everything. So it's not using psychic ability, it's using the mathematical equations pretty much. But they will then tell the parents this isn't a good match. And then the parents will look for another person for their child to marry based on their astrological charts because those
Yeah.
are arranged marriages and stuff like that, right? So,
Right.
um, however,
Jeez.
a ton of people use astrology. uh, what's Nancy Reagan used astrology,
Yes, I remember. Yeah.
and Ronald Reagan did nothing unless Nancy said, "Yes,
Yeah, and look at the
it's good
country
in the
now.
chart."
Wow.
A ton of very influential people use astrology.
Right.
There is an Indian woman on TikTok, and she uses non-colonizer astrology. Her astrological predictions are world-based. Her predictions are pretty dark for the United States in the next coming while. They're not good.
Okay.
I
Okay.
mean, we could have said that just by looking at what's going on there, but she's using the charts,
Yeah.
and she explains what all of them mean because she's using Indian charts, not
Right.
using, our white people charts.
Eurocentric
Yes.
charts? Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Um,
I think that for me, astrology is fun. I
yeah.
think that for me, that's my fun
Yeah.
because it's personal for me. I'm in control of just reading just the
Right.
stuff and just taking it for what it is and blah blah
And you
blah.
don't
Off it
have
goes.
to and you don't ever have to live by it.
No, I
You
don't
live
at
your
all.
life.
It's fun, and
And it
sometimes you're
can
like,
be
oh,
guidance.
it
So
can be
astrology
for
is
some, yeah,
could be guidance, right?
right. I just think astrology is for fun.
And it should be.
But there are people that, like we were just saying, that do take it seriously. Nancy Reagan did guide the United States based on
It
readings like that, which in itself is terrifying.
I think there is a lot of political people that do use astrology.
And that is a terrifying thought. I do think it's meant to be just something that we're meant to just kind of enjoy on our own. And even for all my bluster and I don't like psychics, well, I think that even that in itself is something that you are to enjoy on your own. On your own, it's as long as it doesn't cause danger to you
Yeah.
or to anyone around you. And I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
It's the damage and danger.
And I think like with any addiction,
Yes.
if that is something that you're finding that you are addicted, seek help.
Yeah,
If it's going to give you closure for something,
that's right.
if you're doing it for fun so that you can get together with your friends once a year and have a little psychic party,
Yeah.
share a bottle of wine,
Mhm.
you know.
And as we had said, like just to circle back even right from the beginning of our conversation about this whole journey that you're on when you when you've lost someone that you love, if you're seeking the answers that you need to help you process it and deal with the grief and deal with the loss, you do what you have to do.
Yeah.
Just be mindful of what you're doing and making sure that it isn't going to increase the pain that you're already going through because that's the last thing that you need to do. You need to have your own journeys as you should, but just be kind to yourself. If this is a way to give some kindness, okay, that's
Yeah.
fair. And that's
Yeah.
fine. But
And
it's so
and
personal. You do what you have to do.
exactly. And this is what we think. This is actually Stephen and I think two totally different things because I
Completely.
enjoy going to a psychic and he wants nothing to do with it, and that's perfectly fine.
That is what we that's what we think but about it. And that's okay. I yeah, I yeah, that's one of my things. I don't know. I'm just so vehement, but
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah,
that's
I
just
think it actually is pretty typical for the male
yeah, maybe.
species to be more resistant to psychics.
Yeah, I'm sure we might even get answers on our episode podcast part when people are writing in or from wherever it is that they're going to be if they make a comment about the show.
Yeah.
And we of course we do welcome any and all comments on what we're doing here because it helps us try and make the content as an entertaining for you as it is for us because we,
Yes.
as you know, Con and I can talk about just about anything for hours. We have to cut this stuff down, trust me. But please, this conversation today is a tough one for so many reasons, but we would love to hear what you think on what we think, on what you think. But seriously, please write to us at Connie and Steve at gmail.com. And of course, the lovely Connie will tell you where you can listen to us and respond on there as well.
Yeah, you could add your comments to the bottom of any of the places where you get your podcast from, which is iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. And also, while you're writing that comment, hit the follow button. We really appreciate it. The more people that we have following, the more that we can do this.
Yeah. And as ever, thank you so much again for just taking the time to join us on our conversational journeys. Obviously, we really enjoy doing this together, but it's nice to know that you're enjoying it too. So, yes, as Connie said, please take the time if you have it. Just respond and let us know what you think. And that's what we think. My friend, I love you. You have
I love you
yourself
too.
all the
Thank you
best
for
today.
listening to me.
Take care of your heart, as you know.
I will.
And I just love you. You know that. And I'll talk to you later.
Okay. Love you too.
Bye, Con.
Bye.